Hi, I'm Josh Cadillac, and welcome to my podcast, Know Your Shit. I've been blessed to see great success, as well as seeing the bottom up close and personal in 2008. And if there's one lesson I've learned, is that if you want to have success and differentiate yourself from everyone else out there, you need to know your shit. As a successful real estate and crypto investor and an educator, it drives me insane that people do not immerse themselves in their craft. Everyone is so busy advertising and testing new sales techniques, they forget the most important thing, the product. Here I want to talk to the folks that got this right, the most successful people in the world in every industry. Bring them to you and find out what they learned in their business that made it great. When you listen to my podcast, you will know for sure that the topics and experts we have on have one thing in common. They know their shit. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Know Your Shit podcast, where our knowledge and pride in what we do drives us to be excellent. My name is Josh Cadillac, and I'll be in the driver's seat today as we strive to learn how to stop doing deals and start closing for life. We have a great show for you, and one of the essential parts of the idea of closing for life really stems from knowing your product well. And to know your product well, sometimes being the agent that just goes from what you're sensing of the market isn't enough. Maybe you need a broader view. And so we got a couple of us together here who are doing quite a bit of business and seeing a lot of business done to let you know what we're seeing in the market. So I want to introduce two folks to you, both of who, if you're a fan of this podcast, you've seen before. We have both Ray Hendricks and Jesus Castanon, some podcast regulars, if you will, who are going to try to help us go through kind of what they're seeing with their agents in the business right now. So, Ray, you were actually the one that brought this up. You're up in Tampa. What are you seeing right now? What do you see is changing in the market?
Well, after the inflation of all the prices that we've seen in the market, now we're just seeing a leveling off, and it's starting to slowly turn to where the buyers are having more of a leg up. But the last few months, we've seen like the sellers really be able to hammer it to some of these buyers, and now it's really evening out right now. That's what I'm starting.
Sure. Hey, Jesus, what do you think, my friend? I know that it's the market has been there's been some pressures applied to the market with interest rates going up. What are you seeing?
Well, what I'm starting to see is properties are taking a little bit longer to sell, but I got a couple of friends, kind of like you and I are on a group, on a very interesting group chat together. Right? It's a very, very colorful, as far as, you got a bunch of different characters. One of the characters is always calling for the end of the world.
Yes. Yes, he is.
The market's always gonna, go down. It's always gonna fall. It's always gonna crash. But, the highest, the peak, I have about 450 realtors, right? I mean, climbing up to 500, that's the goal for this year. So I got a lot of feedback from these guys. I got a lot of information. So at the peak last year, the most offers we had on a property was 72 offers, not 72 showings. Okay. 72 offers. So that's the peak, right? Let's call it an average of 50 offers per property. Okay. So what happens? I'm not good in math, but what happens if that demand goes down by 70%, 80%? What does that mean?
Well, you're down from, if it's 50, you're averaging 15 offers per property.
Right. How many offers do we need to go through for the property to sell? One.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, so, you're going to see in the news, demand down by 50%, demand down by 70%, demand. Good.
Fantastic.
The biggest issue I had last year, I mean, I remember having meeting after meeting, teaching these realtors what you have to do. Shit, we did a podcast on it.
Yep.
What you got to do to compete, to get your offer accepted when you put an offer on a property and there's 50 different offers on it, right? What you have to do right now, I'm getting realtors, if they have the buyer and he qualifies, they're going to find the home. They're going to put an offer. First of all, they're going to call a realtor and the motherfucker's going to answer. Okay. So let's start there. Okay. He might even get a missed call and call you back.
That's crazy talk. That never happens in real estate.
You might even get a call saying, hey, how'd the showing go? right? Which we haven't seen in years.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay?
right.
So,
Pre-COVID, it was like that.
bro, I haven't seen that shit since 2000, like 11 or 12 or something like that. I mean, calling you back to see how the showing went. Excuse me. I mean, answering the phone, calling on missed calls, guys. This is so who's gonna tell me that that's a bad market, right? Who's gonna tell me that if interest rates are the same right now as they were in 2019 when the market was great, right? So we got pre-pandemic rates, okay, with higher than pandemic demand,
Right.
with similar to pre-pandemic supply, okay? I mean, I'm good. So, and the reason why I'm mentioning the amount of realtors that I have is because not to show off in any kind of way, but it's because it matters, because I'm always
Sample size.
I'm always going to have buyers. I'm always going to have realtors with buyers. Okay.
Right.
And I'm going to have enough offers going in where, for me personally, this is a good market for them. For me personally, this is the market I'm seeing. So now, interesting meeting. I've had 2 sales meetings. I have a third one tomorrow with a particular message that I think is key. Okay. If you really think about it, in the last 2 years, if somebody had an FHA deal, forget about it. They couldn't buy. Sellers were not accepting it. Okay. If they didn't have money over appraised value, they couldn't buy. People weren't accepting it. They weren't even calling you back. So there's technically a 2-year surplus of these types of buyers out there. So the message we're getting out right now is, hey, were you not able to buy in the last 2 years because you didn't have money to put on top of your closing of the appraised value? Mm-hmm. Great news. You don't have to do that anymore. Give us a call. And dude, the reactions are off the charts.
This is the thing that I love, because you remember with the housing crisis, the big thing was the shadow inventory. What you're talking about right now is the shadow demand. And what we have right now is a market that is thoroughly and totally undersupplied, and a demand that is doing nothing but increasing. And the inflationary pressures that exist that we haven't seen in over 40 years are just going to exacerbate that problem. When there's inflation, the demand for real estate goes up because it's the only safe place to be, to protect whatever money you have from having inflation work its evil negative powers upon. And so this shadow demand that you're talking about, of folks that just, look, I quit. I'm not going to even try to buy. I'll just keep renting. I quit. I can buy. I am approved. I have a good mortgage. I'm ready to go. These folks are now re-entering the market, and that is a really good point.
There's one of the words that you just mentioned in passing here. There are people that are still renting. So the results that we're getting are from rental lists, people that have reached out to us. So we do about 1,000 rentals a year, which is crazy because I'm not even a fucking rental company, but we do 1,000 rentals a year. And that list that I'm using to go out and reach out to people and saying, hey, you couldn't buy before, you can buy now, are all rentals. Yep. And the results are off the chart. Yes, I'm interested. What do we got to do? Yes, I'm interested. Let me talk to the lender,
Do you think that might have anything to do with the rents going up 20, 30, 40, 50% in the last few? Do you think that might be?
No way.
You think that might be an incentive?
More for you to rent than to buy? Is that a thing?
It is. And let me tell you what's been working. So today we got a workshop, right? So I'm in a room with, 15 realtors. We're doing a workshop. We're sending out these messages and everything. And as the clients are calling and reaching out, yeah, I'm interested, I'm calling these agents back. So, because I'm teaching them, hey, what to say and what not to say. And to your point, guys, it's not only the fact that, yeah, rents have gone up, but I express, hey, listen, what are you going to do? You're going to wait for rents to continue to go up, or do you rather purchase and lock in your payment, right? Do you want a payment that's locked in and you know what it's going to be next year and the year after, or do you want to be up in the air, and if things continue to escalate, your rents are going to go up every year. You're going to have to move every year or two. You know, do you really have a choice?
And,
you know what I mean?
And lock in your payment. And the other piece of that is lock in your price, because the payment is affected by that interest rate,
Sure.
but that those prices going up in the type of market that we're in is a foregone conclusion. It's just the direction. Look, things have slowed down, to your point, Jesus, and Ray, as you were saying as well, they have slowed down, but we still have more. And Ray, this is going to be a question for you. Are you still in a position where you have more buyers than there are actual properties available on the market?
Yeah, we do.
And that's the exact same place we find ourselves in, folks. As it turns out, folks, everybody wants a little bit of Florida in their life right now, it seems like, from all over the country. Even if we're seeing numbers in the rest of the country that maybe don't look so great. And by the way, they still don't look that bad. Real estate prices are still going up.
Right.
We're still in a position where we have a supply that is significantly below what the demand would buy up if they could. And so the idea of locking not only your payment, as Jesus says, because there's two things that are running against us, right? Prices are going up, which are making the homes more expensive, and interest rates are going up, which is like a double whammy on there. So the price now goes up, and it costs me more to borrow the money to buy that property. It's a bang, bang. And so if the sooner you lock that in, the lower the rates are, because guys, I don't know, anybody here taking the over under on whether rates are going up further? There's not even an over.
You know what though? Here's what I'm actually doubting it a little bit on whether they're going to go up, you know, because they just brought them back down last week. So what's going on? Did they hit a ceiling?
I think because if you've noticed, it's kind of like, you know, when you're fishing, right? You throw that line out there, they bite onto it, and then you reel in a little bit, and then you let a little bit of line out, and you really, because if you notice, it has been there. It's been up, and then it'll go down a little bit.
Trying to set that hook in.
Then it goes up. It's creeping, so they're doing this. They're inching up. But
or that makes sense, right? But could it also be Cadillac that they can't? Okay, so is it fair to say that there, you know, what is it? Every real estate closing brings what, like about $100 grand into the economy? Is that the number around 90?
It's a big number,
right? Yeah. So I think it's around 90 grand, right? So 100ish. Let's call it 100 for the sake of conversation, right? Between the mortgage broker and for all these millions of listeners, what does that mean? $100,000 into the economy. The mortgage broker's commission, the mortgage processor, the painter, the moving company, the realtor, the title company, the landscaping guy, the furniture company. So could it be that if they squeeze too much and they eliminate what could be potentially keeping this economy away from a deep ass recession or a depression? I mean, what's a depression? And as far as definition is concerned, how many months of
I'd have to look it up, what the difference between the two, between recession and I don't know off the top of my head.
I do know. Like, you know what? Let me look it up right now. We're in the age of Google.
Yeah, why not, right? Let's look it up. So you know, could it be that if they get too cute, right, it'll slide us into either a deep recession or a depression? Because, you know, so it maybe they're like, oh shit, you know what? We slowed it down enough, can't continue to slow it down, or we're gonna have, you know, a bigger issue to explain to our voters before elections. I mean, is that possible, Cadillac?
I don't think so, because of a couple of things, right? If you look at the last inflation numbers that came out, inflation was, air quotes inserted, down. But the only place that went down was basically all fuel price related. So because of the release of the strategic reserves and whatever they did with Saudi Arabia and all that other stuff, they were able to increase the supply of oil in the world, which brought the price down. So like airline tick. So I'm sorry again. Say it again.
Making the numbers look better.
Basically, it makes the numbers look better. But the core prices, all the things that are not fuel and airline related, all of those stayed the same. So the inflation on food, on, you know, everything else was unchanged. The only place that we saw a peel back in inflation was in fuel related stuff. So energy, like power bill, transportation, that sort of stuff. which means to me that we've actually seen no let up in inflation of what's going on. And there's no reason we should. With interest rates at 2%, at prime rate at 2%, where it is right now, it's not enough. It's not enough. So I agree with you, Jesus, that thinking about the will of the Federal Reserve and their willingness to continue to raise rates, but understand this too.
Fine. Do they have the spine to continue to push this? And it could
I think they're going to have to, because the rate of inflation is so high right now that this is actually a crippling level. This is going to take and put a lot of people's ability to support themselves is going to go away. We have too much of an elderly population, too many people in this country on a fixed income to have the value of money go down so quickly. Because in addition to that, the cost of living increases for the Social Security would be crippling to them as well. All of these things would absolutely cripple the economy. So I would agree with you that they're probably going to start to ease. Although what Powell said the other day was very hawkish, that he's going to raise rates no matter what he's going to do, whatever. And that's trying to take and deal with the psychological impact of inflation. But the big thing that I think you'll look at that sort of pairs this is when interest rates are getting ready to go up, when they're getting ready to announce, you kind of had this lull where they drop back down again, then it spikes. I mean, you see the big drop in the stock market. That's anticipating these rates going up. But understand that that 10-year treasury, where our mortgage interest rates come from, that thing moves. It's separate and distinct from what the Fed does. Mm-hmm. They're correlated, but they're not directly correlated. And so if the Fed goes up 0.75 of a basis point, if they go up 0.75% on the prime rate, fully expect the interest rates to go up 1.25 in overnight, and then it'll slowly start to inch its way back again. It's like the stock market. When anything bad happens with a company, right? What do? Do they sell down to where the value of the company should be? No, they sell well below where the value of the company should be, and the company usually rebounds the next. Bed Bath & Beyond is down 30%. You know what? Odds are it's probably not worth 30% less. It's just hype sort of thing. So
it's artificial.
Yeah.
It's traded.
Always trying to push the envelope just a little bit to see where the sweet spot is. Because remember, back before even COVID, like 4.2 was a really good rate until 3.8 was, and until
3.75,
and then right. So now we're going up, 5.25 and all of this. So I think that trying to see where the sweet spot is so we can level out. But just to let you know, I did look it up, and they say that a depression lasts like 1 or more years, so about 12 months and over. Then they officially say that
12 months of recession is the depression.
Yeah, 12 months.
So it would be a persistent recession would make it a depression.
Quarters, so recession is down 2 quarters. They'll start to label it a recession, at least from the definition that I saw.
Correct.
And then 12 or more months, then it's considered a depression.
Well, let me tell you, we're gonna hit a depression. There's no way on earth we're gonna recover this year.
Right. So we've already had two negative quarters.
Here's what I'm saying though, especially if they continue to get cute with those rates. If they continue to get cute with those rates, they're gonna add another 2 quarters to this shit. Think about that. I'm telling you, I think I'm making sense, bud. I really am.
I hear you, but I mean, the Federal Reserve's job is supposed to be to provide stable money, right? And the inflation is a counteracting force to that. Without stable money,
they having backdoor conversations, and are they all in a meeting?
Are they maybe taking it easy prior to November? Yeah, that is a reason, implying that I'm past believing that any of this stuff is non-politicized. Right. I think that there's everybody's got their thumb on the scale, and who's got whose thumb where. I don't really care.
Next year, different animal. You know what I mean? Next year might be a different animal. That's why all the big, the Fannie Mae's, the Freddie Macs, the NBA, all those guys are predicting this year we're going to have appreciation, but next year it'll be, it'll get a little bit tighter. And I'm sure it's because, at the end of the day, they're seeing that next year is where these guys can start getting cute. You know what I mean?
I showed you the chart. I know you've seen it, Jesus, because we've talked about it. Ray, I'm not sure I ever shared it with you, but the interest rates going into the inflation in the 1970s were 7.6% was the average interest rate. That was in 1970. By 1979, those interest rates were 17 or 16.77%. I'm sorry. They had more than doubled. And real estate prices had almost tripled in that period of time. So, we're seeing the devaluation of money, and the result of the devaluation of money is everything is more expensive to buy. Can of Coke, a steak at the store, a piece of real estate.
Hey, let me tell you, man, it's something, and we talk about it all the time, but it's, dude, there's nothing cheap anymore. There's just nothing. There's really like, and you and I have talked about it a million times, but think about going anywhere. And when you really realize it, because I travel a lot to these like rural areas with my son for these crazy, he's in wrestling. So you go to the weirdest places for this shit. So it's like, the middle of a cornfield in Ohio and type of stuff. It's way worse in these bigger cities. Way worse. I mean, we are living in you can't go out and get anything. What's the last time you got a lunch for under $20? I'm not talking about like a sandwich. I'm talking about like, dude, it's you gotta work, you gotta like shop around to get a meal for under $20, $25. That's at least here in Miami. I don't know how it is in Tampa, but
it's around the same. I'll say about 18. Like if it's 20 in Miami, it'll take off a couple bucks. Yeah.
And I mean, Ray is in an interesting market too, because his market, much like ours, I actually think that his market was right there and maybe even a little hotter than ours for a little while. That market in Tampa, St. Pete was.
It still is. It still is, and it's rising. Like we're still getting an influx of people every day that are moving. Because even though our market is like kind of slowing down, like as far as prices go, remember other markets are still climbing, and some markets are still climbing. So they're still coming down because our houses are cheaper than New York City or, out in California.
Where are you getting them from? Where are you getting them from mostly? Is it New York?
California. We're getting them from New York. We're getting them from Jersey. We're getting them from, what was the last? Like Virginia area.
Virginia, no shit.
Well, don't forget, Virginia is a server to Washington, D.C., and Washington, D.C. is one of the most expensive, overpriced, ridiculous markets out there.
Yeah.
And crime ridden. And Chicago, I'm getting some people from Chicago too. There's companies closing down and coming to South Florida too from Chicago. The crime rate in Chicago. Well, I was just in. Yeah, go ahead.
You to move your business down to Florida now.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's really kind of the cool thing. So I was actually, I told you I was just doing a coaching session before this a little bit, and I was talking to guys about this kind of the idea of popping yourself out of yourself and looking down at what you're doing and saying, does that even make any sense? I think that COVID actually had that effect for a lot of these companies that were spending these incredible rents to be in, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. They're sitting here saying, well, wait a second. Why are we here again? Why are we doing it this way?
Right.
And saying, you know what? No sales tax. I mean, I'm sorry, no income tax. Are you no mask?
Yeah.
No COVID restrictions. You actually treat people like an adult and have them figure out whether or not what they want to do to protect themselves. Like, geez. Right. And it's been interesting because you don't see this kind of migration in U.S. history very often. I mean, there have been periods of migration where different groups and have moved different places at different times. But I mean, to actually live through it and see something like this happen, guys, this is going to be something I think that's in the history books as far as the movement of people in such a mass fashion from one part of the country to another. That's really not a very common thing.
You guys are familiar with the Babylon Bee, right?
Yes.
That Instagram page, that satirical Instagram page.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they have a list out. You can Google it. Let me see if I can find it quickly, and I'll do it. It's about the 15 ridiculous stories that we put out that have become reality. One of them is like for example, one of them is Newsom becomes #1 salesman for U-Haul. Actual article, U-Haul runs out of trucks going in that direction, right? So all the trucks are here, so they gotta figure out a way to get them back over there, because normally there's enough of a
there's enough going back and forth that it cancels each other out.
Yeah, we're living in a ridiculous world right now where and it's all based on that influx of people. Dude, I've been doing this 23 years now. I've never seen that this many foreign buyers ever. Let me go back. I mean, they've always been South American. They've always been because there's a political coup in Venezuela, or there's some shit going on in some other South American country. Some president took over, this and that. But United States, this is, like you said, it's a historical. I think this whole thing. I think from the crash of 2008. So this COVID will be in the history books. I think shit's been rewritten. I know that mortgage rules have been rewritten. The way banks do business has been rewritten. A population and the way it's analyzed, and politics and real estate. Kind of like, there was one thing I never forget when we took the CCIM together.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, there's certain things that just pop in your head. And the lady says, okay, so what are the things that could influence? It was one of those classes, I think it was in Tennessee. What are the influences? What are the things that could influence the real estate market? And people were like, interest rates and this and that. And nobody really answered this, what she was looking for. She goes, politics. How about politics? And I remember thinking, yeah, but not really.
Not really, right?
Yeah, like, dude, for the first time in my career, I've been doing this full time, 23 years. Okay. Yeah, politics means more than anything. Politics has more weight right now than interest rates. I'm telling you right now, if interest rates go to a 10%, people are still going to come to Florida. Right now.
Whether they have to rent or whether they have to buy. I
saw a meme the other day, Realtor of the Year, and they put a picture of DeSantis. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So those are the things that, I think that we are living in.
I saw that too, and I mean, it's interesting because what you're talking about is domestic migration.
There we go. That's the fancy name for
it. And that's really something that you just don't. I mean, I think I was actually up near you, Ray, at a class that I was in, or I was getting ready to teach, and they had somebody on before me, and they were talking about the ratios of people coming in versus going out in Florida. And so, like, if it's like 55-45, that's like stop the presses. That's big. I mean, that's a huge shift. 55% people coming in versus 45 going out. That state's growing really quick. Florida's like at 63 or something like that. I mean, it's just nuts. And so I know for you, I mean, the rental market where you are, Ray, that's still very strong.
Still strong. It's going up a lot, so people are complaining. But like, I have one of my houses right now. It's out there in Ruskin, right? So more of a rural area. It's about, I want to say, under 900 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
2 bedroom, 1 bath. That thing's renting for $13.90.
Nice. I know for up there that's a good number. So let me kind of put this out, because I know, Ray, you're tight on time. Let me kind of put this out there. What would be the one thing if somebody's listening, they're an agent and they want a tip, Ray, what would be the thing that you've kind of seen in this market that you're doing that maybe is a little different than you were doing in a different market?
I always say it never changes. Follow up is always the bread and butter. I mean,
preaching to the choir there.
You're the man. Absolutely. 100%.
But one thing that you guys brought up that I love to death is getting those rental lists, like calling those apartment complexes, sending out those mailers. Like, those old school tactics still work. I mean, people want to buy homes. They just need to know that they can. I had a friend of mine who didn't know, like it was like maybe a year later, he finally trusted me and said, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and see if I could buy a home. We did his loan for him, figured out that he can actually do. He didn't know what his credit score was. The dude was almost at 700 as a credit score. Didn't even know it, and didn't even know he could afford the home, because I'm like, if you're paying this rent, you can afford this. And sometimes it takes a little bit for you to talk to somebody, let them know what their financial situation is. Because if you're paying $1,600 in rent, then you can afford to pay what his mortgage is now is like $1,400.
Yeah, and that's a great point, man. That's a great point. Rents going up has actually, it's another way that it's actually helped the buyer market, because
Of course.
yeah, if you could afford a rent now at those 30, 40, 50% higher prices,
Right.
yeah, your first, last, and deposit is a down payment. You get a little bit of contribution. You know what I mean? And the payment's going to be the same. You're 100% right. It's a great
And
point.
so here's the other piece of this, guys, because this is the thing to understand. Everybody wants to look at those interest rates and saying those interest rates are going to apply a downward pressure to real estate prices. But the counteracting force that's going to take and support the real estate prices continuing to rise is the fact that the rents are going to continue to go up.
Yeah.
And that is going to incentivize people to stop making the rent decision and start making the purchase decision, especially as they see the value of those homes continue to go up and their rents go up.
Right.
They could either be participating in that appreciation, or they could be experiencing inflation as a tenant. There's really only those two choices. And so I think that, and I like the phrase you used, Ray, old school tactics is a really good thing, because here's the thing. The reason why the old school tactics stopped working is because the market stopped being an old school market. The market transitioned into a different phase. Well, now we're transitioning back into a phase that the market was in back in the old school in the 70s. So guess what? You got to go blow the dust off your playbook from the 1970s, take and mix in the new options and the new techniques that we have to get information out. But realistically, an old school approach of going to a rental list and saying, hey, you sick of paying those high rents?
Listen, I'm gonna add to Mr. Hendricks. The old playbook and dusting the stuff off. I'm very good friends with the you guys have El Dorado furniture up there too, right, Hendricks?
Yeah, we have El Dorado.
All right, so at this point, he's one of my best friends. A guy he's served as a mentor. Is the president of El Dorado Furniture. This is a guy that came here on a boat like I did. I mean, his story was a little. My story was a lot safer. His boat wasn't as safe, and that trip wasn't to the United States. It was to Mexico, so it was a lot more dangerous. But this is a guy who started the company from scratch. I mean, it's one of the largest Hispanic-owned companies in the country. Has really suffered through success, man. He really has. I mean, if I tell you some of the stories. We'll have a beer one day, Hendricks, and I'll fill you in on some of the horror stories of the stuff that he's gone through. But one of the things that he's told me a lot of cool stuff, but he's like, man, I'm telling you right now, success in business is just being brilliant at the basics.
Yep.
That's it. Brilliant. It's all basics. It's all fucking basics. There's no fancy. There's no magic. There's no sorcery here. There's no shortcuts, motherfucker. Be brilliant at the basics.
That's what I tell
basics. You said follow-ups.
In 60 days or close the deal in a year. And I've watched it all happen just based on who's willing to do the basics and who's not willing to. And when your brain finally clicks and says, all right, you know what? Let me try to do phone calls.
Dude, you're giving me goosebumps here, Hendricks. You're giving me goosebumps. It's the truth.
Coming from an agent, like being an agent, I get it. You know what I mean? I understand that you have to put in the work. Like, this is a business to where you can't sit back and it come to you. You just can't. So I'm gonna
add to that. I know you got to go. So actually, I got to go too. I got to get a haircut. And I need one. I'm wolfing, man. I was sitting in a class today, right? So my company's real strong on giving our agents leads. Okay, right. But we're in a population full of pussies. I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. Excuse makers, just weak-minded, right? And that's where I'm going to leave it, because everything else will be uglier than what I just said right there. All right. So, but you get my point. So what I get from these agents is I'm giving them 100 leads of buyers that clicked on our ad online. And in order for us to get that lead, they have to literally go through 6 or 7 different steps for me to be able to get that lead, for me to be able to get that lead and give it to them. So obviously these are people that have shown interest in purchasing.
Right.
So when I give them these leads, some of them will come to me and be like, oh yeah, these leads don't work. You know, I'm like, listen, man, I come from a world where the software I was getting was like that Red X and all those softwares. It's just a list of 100 random motherfuckers. they're not putting guns. Right. So I'm knocking on their door, random, can't get any colder of a call or a knock. Okay. And out of 100 random people that have shown no interest in anything, I'm able to get something. How are you possibly going to fucking tell me that if I give you a list of 100 people that have clicked 6 or 7 fucking buttons in order for you to get that lead, you're not going to be able to get a buyer out of it?
You know what a good conversion on that is? What you're talking about with the Red X, a good conversion for that is between 1% and 3%. What you're talking about, where they actually have matriculated through a system, it goes up to maybe 4 or 5%. So we're talking about 100 people. You should at least to get 5
4 or 5. Absolutely. Look, guys, I think what you're saying is, if I could summarize it, that there's too many agents out there trying to hack real estate, find a hack to make it easy.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, they're spending so much time and mental energy on the freaking hack that it would be half as much work to just do the freaking work.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny? The big thing that I look at. Have you ever looked at math class now? Remember the new math? Look at the math that we were taught. So typically, so these people who are learning the new math, right? And I equate it to real estate this way: the people who are learning the new math, we are outsmart them and finish all of the problems quicker than them, because we know how to get the problem done and get to the answer. Yeah. They want to show the fancy work, and this is how I got there. No one cares. If you go to a listing appointment and you tell them, hey, I've done my research, your house is worth $475. If we put it up for a penny more than that, when it's going to sit for a little while, they look at
cost you money, right?
That's it. Then I said, well, how did you get to that? Well, where did you get the comps from? Well,
what adjustments did you make for the square footage?
Right, nobody. But these agents, they're trying to do all that, the dog and pony show, and try to show how they got to it. Me and you will go into a listing appointment and be like, hey, here it is. Here's the paper. If you ever want to look at how I got to it, it's right here.
Here it is.
They put you in a drawer somewhere. But if you're able to tell them, this is the amount of money that I can get for your house, and you can move to the next place that you want to go to. That's what they. How much am I getting, and how long do you think it'll take you? So you sell time, not on commission, not on discounting, not on that.
Exactly.
It's on, give me 90 days. I'll get your house sold. Give me 90 days.
I'm gonna add to that whole new realtor mentality, because I don't know if are you familiar with KV Core, the CRM? You familiar with that? So KV Core, I mean, every tool I've used in real estate in my time in real estate, it's all in one app. Okay, it's everything. It's a website, it's an email, it's a text machine, it's a reminder, it's an everything, right? Mm-hmm. So then I got these agents that'll call me. They'll cancel it for $50 a month, right? Which will basically what we pay for it, right? And I tell them, hey, right, get it. Here's everything it does, and we do the training and everything. And then they'll cancel. And then I go, that doesn't work. I'm like, you guys, you know why I'm fat? Let me tell you why I'm fat. Okay. Let me tell you. No, let me tell you, because I know why I'm fat. I don't make no fucking excuses why I'm fat. I love to drink way too much. Okay. Today I was telling my guys, I'm like, listen, today I had a specific choice. I could either order a salad or I could order 3 empanadas, right? And I paused for a good 10 seconds. I'm like, I should go with the salad. And I still went with the empanadas, right? So I'm fat because I like to eat and I like to drink. But let me tell you something. So I'm not making any excuses on it. But here's the thing. So you guys are the type of people that'll buy the fanciest treadmill, the one with the fan, the one with the TV, the shit blows air in your face. You know, it tickles your back while you do it. I mean, there's a $20,000 fucking treadmill. Okay. But guess what? If you're fat, are you going to blame it on the treadmill? Or did your fat ass not get on that treadmill? Does it matter how good the treadmill is if you don't get your fat ass on the treadmill? Same thing with the CRM. It doesn't matter how good the CRM does. It doesn't matter if it has the TV, the fans, it has everything. Nope. If you don't get on that CRM and you don't put that CRM to work, it doesn't fucking matter. So you're gonna get it's like getting mad at the treadmill. Oh, I'm gonna stop paying the treadmill because it doesn't work. Motherfucker, you don't work.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Again, gents, and I think that we could probably bring this to close with the big. I think the big idea that came from the end of this was, and it's a great one. Do the work. Like stop spending so much time figuring out how to avoid doing the work. You're working harder trying to figure out how to avoid doing the work than just do the work.
Right.
Nice and easy.
Brilliant at the basics, bro. If you're gonna call this podcast anything, call it brilliant at the
Brilliant
basics.
at the basics. I love it.
Give my boy Lewis some props.
That's the thing.
Give him a shout out.
Brilliant at the basics. I love it. All right. Hey, Jesus, Ray.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. I know you're both busy. Thank you so much for your time.